Are you here on Full Court with Carlos Powell? We got a legendary guest here, Alex English. First episode here at 1801 Media. I'm glad you're here today.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here. You know, when I look at my career and knowing that I was blessed to be able to be an NBA player, you know, that's a special time. What I take from that period of my life is that I got an opportunity to see the world. I got an opportunity to go places that an old kid from the ghetto in Columbia, South Carolina wouldn't ordinarily get a chance to do.
Just talking about college basketball today, I just want to switch gears a little bit. The difference between when you played, what's the difference between now and then? The biggest difference you think, besides the nil?
Okay, that's what I was going to say. The biggest difference is that they get paid.
Yeah.
And it's legal.
Yes.
You know, we got paid a little bit, and it was illegal.
Are you here on Full Court with Carlos Powell? We got a legendary guest here, Alex English. It's the first episode here at 1801 Media. I'm happy, to do this. We got a special guy here, and Alex English, man. I'm glad you're here today.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
We're glad to have you here, man. It's an honor.
Thank you.
Truly an honor, man.
Thank you.
To say that you're one of my favorite Gamecocks of all time, I just want to let you know that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
First question, though, I want to ask you, but why did you choose USC?
Ooh, I chose USC because during the time that I was playing, when I came out of high school, there was only one African American on the team, and that was Casey Manning.
Judge.
And they had a couple walk-ons, but Casey Manning, Judge Manning, was the first African American. And going to USC, I felt that I was going to be like a person that the local players would follow, and because at that time we needed more African Americans. It was during the Civil Rights era, and South Carolina didn't, they were considered a good team, but they didn't have many brothers on the team. So I said, okay, maybe if I go, maybe some of the other guys will come. And there were a lot of good African American players in Columbia. Mm-hmm. Goldie Augustus, Nate Davis, Herbert Insminger. Those are guys that followed me right away. And after that, the floodgates opened. It was okay for an African American player to go to Carolina because the word on the street was they wouldn't get an opportunity to play because Casey didn't get as much time, but he was a very good player. Mm-hmm. When I came, I got more time and played a lot of minutes, and they saw that it wasn't that they were trying to hold me out because I was an African American player. It was okay to come. I got a chance to play, so that was one of the reasons. The other reason was I was close to home. Columbia's my home. I enjoyed living in Columbia and wanted to be here. So I stayed because of that. And Coach Frank McGuire was legendary coach that I really enjoyed playing for.
Oh, that's good, man. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for paving the way. You and Judge.
Yeah, Judge Manning.
You guys paved the way for guys like myself, and we really appreciate that.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
At USC. Any special moment that sticks out to you that you can remember?
Well, there were a lot of good moments.
Yeah.
One thing I remember the most, and this was a thing that happened in the era of the 70s, they had this thing called streaking. And that's when everybody would get naked and run through the streets. And I can remember coming back from an away game. We got back and everybody is all excited, wanted to be a part of it. And they said, we had guys say, "Oh, I'm gonna go streak too." We were living in the Bates house at that time, and a few of us we weren't streaking, but
Oh,
we had
wow,
our underwear
really?
on. We didn't get butt naked, but we ran across the bridge, came back, and that was it for us. But that was a special moment as far as living in the everyday life of being at USC. Basketball wise, you didn't get to play in the conference that I played in. We weren't in a conference. That was when USC had gotten out of the ACC when I came, and we were independent. And being an independent team, we got a chance to travel the country. I mean, we would be in Buffalo, New York. We'd be in Chicago playing DePaul. We'd play St. Bonaventure. And Frank McGuire liked playing a lot of the New York teams like St. John's and Manhattan. So we got a chance, for me, a Southern boy who hadn't been anywhere, I got a chance to travel the world. And that was probably some of the best exposure for me because it broadened my perspective and how I viewed the world. So those were moments I remember.
Those good moments. You can say those moments shaped you as a basketball player.
Yes, they shaped me as a basketball player and a person.
Yes. So, the New York teams you're talking about, what was so different, playing against those type teams?
Well, at that time, being an independent, the independent teams were the strong teams in college basketball. It was Notre Dame as well. We played against Notre Dame. We played St. Bonaventure, and they had great players like Bob Lanier. Calvin Murphy was at Niagara. Adrian Dantley. So there were a lot of great players playing against independents. I enjoyed that, and we did well. We did well because we had a lot of good players ourselves. That they weren't all from New York, but we had a lot of good players.
Yeah, for sure. Well, wanted to ask about Coach Frank, playing for Coach Frank McGuire. What was that like?
Frank was a classic. He always dressed he was immaculately dressed, and he always had this thing about pulling his collars, his sleeves down on his coat so they would not be up his sleeves. And he was one of the last of the classic coaches like Ray Meyer and McGuire that coached at Marquette, Al McGuire. So he was one of the last coaches that coached the game. And playing for him, he taught me, and I was talking with this guy early this morning about Frank McGuire. He taught me about having class. He was one of those coaches, when we would go to other cities to play, you would always find him giving out money to the people that were taking care of our bags or the bus driver. He always talked about making sure that you took care of those people because they will take care of you. And that's been so true in my life. When you give people that kind of respect and take care of them, they will take care of you as well. And the other thing about him, and I can say this now because he's deceased, and now we've got NIL. Back then, Coach would he would make a way for all the players that didn't get to go home for Christmas. He'd make a way for us to have Christmas dinner, and he would take our tickets that we didn't use or the guys didn't use because they didn't have family in the city. He would take and take the tickets and sell them to some of his friends, and then he would give the players some extra money. Oh, so, he'd call us in. He was like the Godfather. He would call us in and say, hey, okay, this is what I got for you. You get $400 or $500 for Christmas. You were happy.
Yeah.
And he made sure that we were happy playing for him. He did things like that.
Great coach. Sounds like a great coach.
He's a great coach, and he had great assistants.
Yes. All right. So talk about as far as, how he prepared you for, as far as skill development and, taking that next step into the NBA.
He wasn't really the skill coach. He had other coaches that did that. Donnie Walsh, Ben Jobe, the great Ben Jobe. They were the ones that worked with the skill part of the game. And
so more on his playing style,
Yeah, playing styles. he was more of a mental coach. He played the game. Yeah, I know you probably remember. You're probably too young to remember, but during that era, the coaches had to play all kinds of little tricks to win basketball games, like North Carolina pulling the ball out and not taking a shot because there wasn't a shot clock. You could just run the clock down, and there was no basketball. It was boring basketball, but that's kind of what coaches did, playing mind games. Frank was mainly a coach because he'd coached Wilt Chamberlain and some of the great players. He was a coach that had great plays for us, and he took advantage of the talent that he had. Some of the guys that I played with, Kevin Joyce, Brian Winters, Mike Dunleavy, he took advantage. He knew what their skills were, and he would, put us in situations where we could use that.
Put you in position to be successful.
Yes.
You guys, the guys you named, they were all leading scorers on the teams you played on.
Leading scorers and went to the NBA.
Yeah, and went to the NBA as well.
Went to the NBA.
Very talented, very talented. Just talking about college basketball today, I just want to switch gears a little bit. The difference between when you played and they played and now. What's the difference between now and then? The biggest difference you think? Besides the nil.
Okay, that's what I was going to say. The biggest difference is that they get paid.
Yeah.
And it's legal.
Yes.
We got paid a little bit, and it was illegal. I mean, you could lose your scholarship, but we got a little bit. The game today is a lot more physical. Guys are better conditioned. They have a weight training program. They have nutritionists. They have people that help them with homework and make sure they get their homework done. So those little things can take a lot of pressure off of a player when you've got a person that's taking the time with you in those different areas. We had to make it happen for ourselves. We had to do our homework. We had to make sure we got our homework done. We didn't have a tutor on the road with us. Conditioning, we had to do all of our conditioning. There wasn't any weight training. We'd have to do all that. And I guess the thing that we had control of was conditioning, being able to get yourself ready to play.
That's cool. Because I noticed, I think you were wiry strong, if I was to call it that.
Wiry, yeah. I was wiry strong. I think the thing that I worked on the most was my lower part, because I felt that if I had a strong butt and strong legs, I could push. And you know that from being a player. You're going to get pushed out of the post, and you've got to be able to have some balance. So I knew if I could work on those parts of my body, I mean, I'd work on the upper part too, but that was most important, because that was the thing that kept me mobile, getting up and down, sliding. So that's what I worked on.
Okay, cool. So with that being said, transitioning, into the NBA, your biggest adjustment, from USC to the NBA, the big leagues.
Okay, the biggest adjustment for me, and you never saw me play in college, but I played with my back to the basket a lot. So I was like around the basket. They would throw the ball up, I'd go get it, or they'd throw it to me in the post, and I'd turn to shoot a jump shot. When I got to the NBA, everybody was as big as me or bigger, and I was just a thin guy, so I couldn't be posting these 250 pounders up. Yeah. So I had to turn and face the basket. So between my last year in college and my rookie year in the NBA, I taught myself how to play the wing. I would work on, being a wing player, 1-2 dribble jump shot, shooting from the outside, and that made the big difference. I think my best skill was going to find the ball and getting putbacks. Someone had told me that a lot of guys get a lot of points off of putting the ball back, offensive rebounds.
Following your shot.
Following your shot. You know about that.
Yeah.
So I would follow my shot, and get a lot of points that way. But when I got to the NBA, I had to learn how to face guys up and take advantage of their defensive skills. And that was mainly being quicker. That was being able to shoot a jump shot that had a high release and running the floor.
Yeah.
So those are the things that my game was simple. It was just a 1-2 dribble pull up. It was a put back. It was a rebound, and I prided myself on making good passes and blocking shots.
Yeah. Simple but efficient.
Yes, efficient is a good word.
Efficient, very efficient. I noticed, more in the NBA. I noticed you came off a lot of curl screens right in the mid post area, and rise up and just shoot right over them.
Right, but in the NBA, I also got a lot of post ups because when I stretch out, I'm long.
Yes.
And I would usually have a guy guarding me that was my size or smaller. And because of the way I shot my jump shot, it was tough for them to guard me because once I got the ball in my hand, I would turn so quick that they would still be in their defensive stand, and I would be shooting up here. So that was my best thing is doing that, and having people have a difficult time with my shot. But basketball for me was a dance.
Yeah.
I was out there dancing on the floor. I hated to miss games. I didn't get injured a lot because I took good care of my body. But for me, every night I went out, I just felt like I was dancing on the floor like a ballet dancer. And I just treated it that way. Because if you watch the game and within the game, you can move. It's all about movement. And the style of offense that we played at Denver, I got a chance to move wherever I wanted to go, unless I had Dennis Rodman on me.
Yeah, I was going to get to that. That was going to be a question I was going to ask. I know Dennis Rodman was a serious defender. He's probably one of the toughest defenders, right?
He was the toughest guy that I had to play against.
There
were a lot of tough defenders, but the reason why Dennis Rodman was tough because he was relentless. And my game was predicated on how much I ran. And I could guys didn't want to run.
Yeah.
So I would outrun them. I would keep moving. But Dennis Rodman, it was like somebody had poured syrup on me and I couldn't get it off.
Yeah.
He was always on me and he was blocking out, he was rebounding, and he was physical. People didn't know he was a strong guy.
Yeah.
And he was just hard to get away from. And my game depended on me getting away from guys. And so he was the toughest defender that I had to play against. But then, because of my high release, most teams had to put a bigger guy on me. I usually had the power forward on me. The Boston Celtics, they would put Kevin McHale on me or Cornbread Maxwell, both of them.
Yeah.
But they couldn't run.
Yeah.
So I would outrun them.
For sure. Did you have your career high on them?
I don't know what my career high is and when I had it, but it was
probably on them.
It could have been on them. Houston. Yeah. We had a lot of career highs because they were we played in the highest scoring game that record still hasn't been broken in the NBA. We played the Detroit Pistons and they beat us 186 to 184. Highest scoring game ever in the NBA.
How many overtimes?
3 overtimes, maybe 4.
3 overtimes.
I don't remember. Yeah, it was overtimes, and the highest scorer was Kiki Vandeweghe. Yeah, Kiki Vandeweghe. I think he had like 50 something, and then I had like 40 something.
And Izzo was on that team.
And Dan Issel had maybe 30 something.
Yeah. Just 3 walking buckets.
Yeah, we had other guys that scored as well. 180 is a lot of points.
That's a lot of points.
Yeah.
Wow. That had to be a. What'd you do after that game? How about that? Because I know that had to be a tiring game.
After that game, I can remember just going in the locker room and just laying on the training table and just resting and going home that night. Now they have food in the locker room, all kinds of things to take care of you. You just have a beer, get in the hot tub if you want, ice tub, and then you go home with your family.
Yeah.
And that's what I did. We got the next day off. We didn't have to practice.
Yeah, playing at the pace you guys played at is very similar to the pace they play at today.
Yes, and that's the thing. The NBA went through a period where everybody wanted to be like the Detroit Pistons, that slow down, tough defense, beat people up, bang, bang. It was boring basketball.
Yeah.
They couldn't do that with us. That's why the score was so high. And the Denver Nuggets, we had a style that you had to play. The tempo had to be fast, whether you liked it or not. So they had to play. And then you went through that period where they were slowing the ball down. Now it's come back to the up-tempo play. And I'm having a senior moment here. I'm trying to remember what they call it. I guess they call it flow.
Yeah.
They call it flow now,
Yes.
and you just flow when you go down the floor, and you go where the path dictates that you go. But the offense that we played, nobody has played that offense. I have not seen any team play that offense since we played it.
What was so significant about that offense?
The most significant thing was that there were rules in the game. The rules in the offense were, okay, as soon as the ball went in the net, whoever was closest got it out quick. And we had a fast break. We that's the one thing that we learned in training camp. We just worked on our fast break, rebounding, fast break, so that everybody would be in their positions. You had the two wings, then you had one of the two bigs would take it out. And you get it into the point guard, and you have the 2 and the 3 running and crossing, and you had the big guy that would run the floor, and the last big guy would be bringing the ball up, and point guard. And they would, if there's a guy ahead, you had to pass it ahead. You had to pass it ahead, and he had to make a move or whatever. But once you passed ahead, you had to go through. So it was like a clock. There were rules in it that you had to go through, and you could do, the guy that's got the ball at the top could do two things. He could either pass and go through, he could pass and go and screen away for the next guy. And that guy has to go through.
Yeah.
But the rules, we were so good at that, and we learned it, and people were like, that's organized chaos.
Organized chaos.
Organized chaos, but we had a flow. We knew what we were doing.
You were just being who you were.
Just playing basketball.
Yeah, it
just
came
playing
natural.
with the different rules. You had those rules.
Yeah.
And if you followed those rules, you could have fun.
You had a lot of fun. For 8 straight seasons, 2,000 points?
Yes.
What was that like? I know it was.
I told you it was fun. It was my dance. I was dancing the whole time, and for 15 years. I after my 3rd year, after my 4th year, when I got to Denver, from Denver on, I was dancing, and it was fun.
Yeah. Why do you think Denver was the spot that, I guess
Denver, because of the coach.
Yeah.
And when I first got traded to Denver, Donnie Walsh, my college coach, was the head coach there. And Ben Jobe, great coach from South Carolina State, was the assistant coach there. And they knew me. And they just said, okay, this is what we're going to do. And then Donnie got hired the next year, and Doug Moe came in. And Doug Moe was just, that's all he did. That was his game. Fast-paced basketball.
Getting up and down the floor fits your style perfect.
Yeah.
Question. Just switching gears a little bit. Every player looks back on their career, and it's always a special moment. It's things like what ifs, and what is a moment that you think, okay, that you would possibly change if you had had the opportunity to
change.
Yeah. What would you change about your career? Not at South Carolina. Not at Denver, just in general.
In general.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's anything I would have changed.
That's perfect.
You know, I enjoyed, I told you, I danced. I enjoyed dancing. You know, the era that we played in, they didn't pay as much as they pay today. But the money didn't matter as much to us. We were basketball. We were like guys out of the hood playing basketball and loving it. And you probably know it. You probably played in the park.
Yes.
And you go to the park and you say, hey, we're going to see who the toughest is on the floor today.
Yeah.
And that's how it was for us back then. And when I look at the era that I played in the NBA, I played with some of the greatest basketball players. I could have been one of the people in the stands just enjoying every game. Because, I mean, if it wasn't Larry Bird or Jabbar or Magic or Dominique Wilkins, James Worth, it was just so many guys during that era that were, when you look at the 50 greatest, 75 greatest, a lot of those guys came out of my era, with the exception of me, when I think I should have been there.
I agree.
You know?
I totally agree.
Thank you. But that era, I mean, every night, I mean, we could go to Atlanta, and then I have to guard Dominique Wilkins. Then we'd go up to Boston, and there's Larry Bird.
Yeah.
Then we come down to New York Knicks, and it's Bernard King, who was a rough brother.
You got to go to Philly, too.
Then you go to Philly,
Yeah.
and it's Julius Erving.
Yes.
Then you might go to, where was Adrian Dantley and Mark Aguirre, you know, some of the greatest. That era was the greatest era for the small forward, two-guard position. But even with the big guys in the middle.
Who we had?
You know,
Who'd
you
you
had
have?
Jabbar, but, well,
Besides.
I had Dan Issel on my team, who was a Hall of Famer.
For sure.
But there was Bob Lanier, there was Caldwell Jones, and just people that a lot of people wouldn't know today, but they were very good basketball players. And you know now the 5 position was very instrumental and very important. You know, nowadays, you know, you got your 5 shooting threes.
Speaking of 5, in Denver, Joker.
Ooh, the best. He is, you know, just watching him play, he's got great footwork. He's got a great sense of the game. And he knows how to use that body. I mean, you watch guys that struggle against him.
Yeah.
I mean, he's throwing, and as a basketball player, you know what he's doing. He would put his defender between him and the basket, and he'd throw that little.
Yeah, that little short hook.
And you know, as a basketball player, you couldn't get to that because he's got that big body, and all he's doing is just flipping it up there. And then he's learned how to shoot the 3-point shot.
Yeah.
So he is. He will go down as probably one of the top big men ever play the game, if not the best. But you think of people like Russell and Jabbar and Olajuwon and those guys, but he has changed the way the 5 is used now. And then you got people like Wembanyama coming out, he's probably going to change the game even more.
Yeah, that's going to be special to watch.
Yes,
You know,
yes.
Guy 7, what?
4?
4?
7-4.
Jeez, that's a total package right there. I don't know. You think he could have played with you guys?
Who? Joker?
Wembanyama.
Oh man, if we had Wembanyama, we would have been a dynasty. Because you know the thing that stopped us in Denver, we went to the finals, went to the Western Conference Finals one year, and I broke my thumb. Yeah. But if we'd had a guy like Wembanyama to play Jabbar, and for Jabbar having to play him, he's just a totally skilled player. He blocks shots, he rebounds, he brings the ball up the floor. He's 7'4".
Yeah. If you don't break your thumb.
If I don't break my thumb, I think we would have beat the Lakers and been in the finals against the Celtics. That year, the Celtics ended up beating Boston for the championship, if I'm not mistaken. But I broke my thumb, and a couple other guys got injured later on. So that was my one time, my possible chance of winning an NBA championship.
Do you think that the others hold that against you?
Possibly.
Because I believe you should have been in the 75.
Yeah, I mean,
we're talking basketball.
But has Charles Barkley won a championship?
No.
No. Mm-mm. So, I mean, they could hold that against me, but you put my record, put the rest of my game, the wins, the losses, the longevity, the not just scoring, but I was an all-around player. Joker just broke my assist record in Denver. Passing, rebounding, blocking shots. I prided myself on doing all those things. So, I mean, I'll always think about it, but it's nothing I can do about that. The fans who saw me play, they appreciated what I did.
Yeah, for sure. I know they did. With that being said, I know you said Rodman was the person that guarded you probably the best. Who was the toughest person you probably had to guard? It was a lot.
And I told you, it was a lot. I was the small forward, guarding small forwards. I'd have to guard Dominique Wilkins, and I wasn't the quickest. And Dominique, he get by you, and he'd slam on you. Julius, I could manage. Julius was just a high jumper. He wasn't like a great jump shooter or anything. But the toughest guy for me to guard was Bernard King. I used to call him, he was like a thundering herd. When he was coming down on the wing, he was like a thundering herd. And if you were in his way, he was going to run over you.
Wow.
He would either dunk or shoot a jump shot. So, and there are so many people that didn't get the credit, the publicity as being great players that unfortunately people will probably never know because the time has moved on. But a guy like John Drew, 6'5", 6'6", and he would give you 30 a night. Mark Aguirre, same type of guy, but had different type of game. He could shoot jump shot, big wide butt. He posts you up, you lost, you're done. Adrian Dantley, Mike Mitchell, Larry Keenan, great players that came from that era that didn't get the opportunity or the notoriety because it was so many. I mean, it was so many. It was just a whole bunch of guys every night. It was fun. You had
to get a good night's rest, basically. A good night's
and
rest.
On top of that, now that's the other thing. Back then, we could end up playing 5 games in 6 nights because when I first went in the league, we would play back to back to back. Day off, another back to back. We were playing 3 games in a row, so the wear and tear on your body was greater. You weren't flying around in your private jet after the game, getting rest, getting food. You had to make your own way. You got up at 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning to catch the first flight out to get to that next game. So you wore your body out. It was tough.
That sounds a little brutal on the body.
It was brutal, and guys got injured. But like I said, they loved playing the game. It wasn't about the money as much. It was more about, okay, let's dance.
A lot of dancing going on, man. A lot of dancing. Yeah. Of course, talk about Julius Erving, Hall of Fame speech. He was my presenter. He was your presenter.
He was my presenter, and he was my presenter because he was a player that I admired. I admired how he carried himself as a player, and what he did and how he worked on the floor. Julius was I guess the thing that made him stand out the most was that, he had some high-flying dunks. And, he would dunk on anybody. But he was just As far as shooting the ball, he was just an average shooter. He was sometimes consistent. He scored a lot of points, but a lot of his stuff was around the basket.
Around the basket.
So, but I admired how he carried himself.
Great guy. You say you admired how he carried himself. So is it true that you warmed up in sunglasses before?
I've never warmed up in sunglasses. That's a lie.
Okay. They told me you were a cool guy. I said, I don't think he was that cool now.
I was not that cool.
Yeah.
I mean, I was serious about my game. So when I warmed up, I did a lot of stretching. Mm-hmm. I stretched, and people even today would say, wow, you did the kind of stretches you did. And I had to get ready for the game. So once I was stretched out and up and down the floor a few times, I felt good, and I didn't get as many injuries.
And I try to relate that to my players because I did the same. I did the same. Where did you learn that I guess key to being successful, because it helped me as well.
It was
injuries.
Just important. I had seen guys stretching out before. But when I was in college, I took a yoga class, and not long, but I learned that stretching was important. So when I got to college, and even more so in the NBA, I had to stretch out, a lot of stretching, and I think that kept me. The most serious injury I had as a player was breaking my thumb. Okay, so you've had something similar. Yeah.
Same.
Yeah. Breaking my thumb on the shooting hand. So that was it. I had to do a lot of recuperation during the summertime, but I got it all back. Mm-hmm. And then as I got later in my career, I get hamstring every now and then, and every now and then a calf strain. And you get the little back.
Back, right?
Little back. So all those little things.
Yeah, small
things, but nothing major. No knee operations. No.
Oh, that's good.
That was the main thing.
The thumb. Same with me. Luckily, I'm left-handed, so I got a chance to,
So I
had
to
a
wait.
cast on this one, so that's your right hand. So
That's my right hand, and
it was a struggle.
I had to wait until I got right.
Yeah,
and
wait it out.
Wait it out, and then getting all the therapy, because this is my jump shot here.
Yeah, for sure.
And the reason that it happened, I think, is because that injury that you get on your thumb here, where you strain that ligament, and you get taped. You get the thumb taped, only the thumb taped.
Yeah.
That night I had both thumbs taped because I'd had ligaments. My ligaments were sore and worn. So I think that having it taped like that, it wasn't enough movement in the joint. So when he hit me with his elbow, it just snapped it.
How'd it happen?
Kareem was rebounding, and he came down like this, and I backed up, and his elbow caught me right here, and that was it. I go down the floor, and this doesn't feel right here. They throw me the ball, and I tried to dribble it, and something's wrong here, and then I had to come out.
Yeah, that was game 3.
That was game 3.
3.
Yeah, it was 1-1.
Yeah.
And that was the first game back in Denver.
What was the game 3? So it was
2-2, 1-1-1.
2-2,
1-1-1.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it wasn't 2. Oh man.
Yeah, it was. So we won. If we had beaten them those 2 games in Denver, then we would have gone back. They could have beaten us, but then we had to come back to us too.
Come back to y'all. So it ended up 4-1.
Yeah.
4-1.
They beat us 4-1.
Tough. Okay. Switching gears a little bit. I also heard that you were a painter. Is that true?
I was a writer. I wasn't a painter.
Well, you enjoyed painting.
No.
No.
I was not a painter. I was a writer. I was a poet. I've written 3 books of poetry. And that comes from my English background at USC. I was an English major, and learned poetry from one of my professors that was from Chicago. Her name was Yolanda Baxter. I remember her. But I enjoyed English. You know, I loved Shakespeare. There were a lot of lessons in Shakespeare, but there were a lot of great writers like American literature. And I didn't get everything, but I got a lot. So, but I ended up getting my degree in an interdisciplinary degree in English and hospitality. So
At USC.
At USC.
Yes. Your time, okay. Time at USC. Similar, my time at USC, when I left USC, my biggest adjustment, I think, was in the NBA. You know, you said in the NBA, my biggest adjustment was the speed of the game, right? And yours was, you said...
the physicality.
The physicality, of course.
Right. I mean, you look at me now, I'm overweight at 250. I mean,
how much did you weigh in?
I was 190 pounds wet.
Wow. With 250-pound guys guarding you.
And in the NBA, I got up to 195. So I was not a 200-pounder.
Not a 200-pounder?
Nope, not until I retired. I was a lightweight.
With that, I think, not being, because I had a similar teammate who couldn't reach that 200-pound mark, Brandon Wallace.
Okay.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite teammates. And you guys you got the same build in college, and I told him that today.
I knew that my deficiencies was weight and strength. So I compensated by being in the best shape and working on my game and being playing the game and reading the defender, taking advantage of what the defender is doing against me. For instance, if I'm in the post and I've got a guy on me, I'm going to call for the ball. And when I get the ball, as soon as the ball touches my hand, I'm already turning around shooting the ball from up here. So the defender's always down here. And I used that as an advantage when I played. Yeah. You know, the quickness of the game. And I would work on stuff during the off season. I would work on, coaches always say you add something to your game. So I also added a running one-hander. That was an off-beat one-hander. If I'm coming from, you say I'm coming from the left and I've got my left hand and I'm dribbling across the lane at the top of the key with dribbling the ball, and in one motion I would, as that dribble comes back, I would pick it up and then I would shoot it with my right hand off of the wrong leg.
Off the wrong leg.
Off the wrong leg. So that kind of threw people off as well.
I think that would. You said you picked that up during the summer.
I worked on it during the summer.
What made you do that? Like just trying something one day, or what? I know the imagination runs wild while you're on the basketball court by yourself.
I was dancing.
You was just dancing.
I was dancing. It was just a new dance move. It was a new dance move. And going or running one hand or going the other way. It was like, maybe making it real quick and just in one motion, just make, because defenders wait for you. They're reading what you're going to do. They think, well, okay, he's got to pick the ball up and then he's going to do a jump shot. I did it all while I was moving. I was always moving.
Off beat.
Because they used to beat the living daylights out of me.
Yeah. I would think they would try anything they could to stop you, though, to be honest.
Yeah.
But they were way bigger than you were.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure. That's go. I just want to ask your top 5 of all time.
My top 5. Well, I can give you some top guys. I don't know if I can do top 5 because I would have probably 20 tops. But I would start with Bill Russell.
Okay.
I idolized Bill Russell when I played. When I watch the game because of how he played the game. He was a defender. He was moving. He was blocking shot, rebounding, dictating what we do on the floor. Kobe Bryant, because he just loved playing the game, and I used to work for the Players Association, and as a director of player programs, and one of the programs I put together was bringing all the top high school players in the country to Princeton University for a basketball camp in the summertime. And the first time we did this, we had guys, if I could remember all of them, that you would know them because most of them played in the NBA. But Kobe Bryant, they said, this kid, Kobe Bryant, is coming. And he came with his sisters, and he was late, and he was younger than everybody else. But he was just unbelievable. And we had great players there. I know the two Walton kids, the two twins that played. One coaches with Golden State now. Tim Turner, not Tim Turner. It was just, I would say out of that particular camp, half of those guys made it into the NBA when they graduated from college. They were high school at that time. Yeah. And Kobe was just heads and tails above all of them. And he had an effervescent personality, and he knew he was a bad he knew he was a bad. At 17.
17 years old.
Oh man, he was, and so that was, just getting a chance. So Kobe, Michael Jordan, two of my all-time favorites, and if I was going to keep going, I would probably throw Oscar Robertson in there. And of course, I would look at the era that I played in. In Jerry West, Larry Bird, Magic Johnson. It was just so many great players, and I got a chance to be a fan watching these guys. So I knew that they were the real deal, and they did stuff. Larry Bird, he'd come down and he just nonchalantly just shoot a jump on you. Yeah. Bam. It was done. Julius Irving. Julius was not a player like those guys. He was not. You couldn't put it in his hand and say, "Okay, take over and get us some points."
Yeah.
You have to put him in position to do that. But Kobe, I coached. Yes. I coached with the Toronto Raptors.
Yes.
And my scout was the game we played the Los Angeles Lakers in Los Angeles. And my scout that night, Kobe Bryant scored 81 points. With the game he scored 81 points was the game that I put together. There was no stopping him. We had Vince Carter, Jalen Rose.
Yeah.
They couldn't stop him. He was like a grown man playing with little boys.
Like a machine out there.
Yeah, like a machine.
I know a guy like Kobe, his arrival moment. But everyone as a professional, we always have that moment where we arrive. Mm-hmm. When was your moment where you felt like, all right, I'm here now? I know you had a scoring title early, but like, I'm here. I can manage with these guys.
I think I had two moments like that. After I got past those first 2 years and I made the team in Milwaukee. Mm-hmm. When I got to Indiana, I played, I started and I played the game, and then I came off the bench one year. But I was able to be comfortable in my game because I had guaranteed contract for 3 years. But when I got to Denver and I got to play for Donnie Walsh, my coach, and the first 2 games, I had gotten like 20, maybe 24, 28 points and got to play. That's when I realized that, I can do this. I'm gonna be here.
Yeah.
As long as I do the right thing.
Life-changing moment.
Life-changing moments. Yeah.
To be honest, you told me really everything, man. It's a great interview. Great.
Well, it's when I look at my career, and knowing that I was blessed to be able to be an NBA player, that's a special time.
Yes.
What I take from that period of my life is that I got an opportunity to see the world. I got an opportunity to go places that an old kid from the ghetto in Columbia, South Carolina wouldn't ordinarily get a chance to do. So that's the most cherished part of my career, is seeing the world, seeing how other people lived, and seeing that the world is a community of a lot of different kind of people with a lot of different ideas, a lot of different colors, but they're all just people. And that's the greatest gift basketball gave me. I got an opportunity, and I'll finish here. I got an opportunity to go to Africa with Dikembe Mutombo, who was a friend. And a lot of guys wouldn't go because we went to South Africa first. A lot of guys didn't want to go because at that time apartheid was just ending and Mandela was released from prison. But going into the townships in Soweto and Alexandria in South Africa, and we go from there. We go from Kenya, then we take a plane north to this camp where a lot of refugees were from other countries, like Zambians, Ethiopians, Somalis, and all of these refugees were there because they didn't have a place to live, and we went as a group with CARE to feed them. And we did that. We took a plane back to Kenya. We go to Zambia, and Zambia is another country in Africa. At that time, the HIV/AIDS epidemic was running rampant, and people were just dying every hour or so. We go to Zambia, and we go into the city. Lusaka was the capital. We go to Lusaka, and along the way on the road, we see all these funerals going on, people being buried, and we get into we go into the camp. And all the women are working, digging the ditches, and the men are like over at the bar, hanging out. So we got a chance to see that. And from Zambia, we go down to what is the city down at the bottom in South Africa? I've lost my train. Cape Town. We go there, and there's another township. But while we're there, we get to meet Nelson Mandela. And I had my son with me on these trips, so he got a chance to experience all this. But we get a chance to meet Nelson Mandela and spend time with him. And how can I top that in my life? That experience, meeting Mandela, and he was going to be president the next year. But getting a chance to see him and to see the people that took care of him, that guarded him, and knew that this man was so important to their country that they were called the ANC. The guards from the ANC would give their life to make sure that he had life. So getting a chance to experience those things, basketball gave me all that. And you probably got a chance to go overseas and do all that. I have been to so many countries and seen so many so many societies, and just I can't begin to explain all of that, because it were moments in my life that were just been big moments. But that trip, and then Dikembe Mutombo was a legend on the continent of Africa. And he was always, "Where's my brother, my brother?" Big love, big
Yeah.
big 7-footer, and revered. He had put money in a hospital there in the Congo, his hometown, but he wanted to bring all the Africans to Johannesburg and do this NBA camp. And that's called Basketball Without Borders now. Mm-hmm. So all these African players who we see coming into the country from the last 10 years, they were a part of Basketball Without Borders. We were responsible for giving them that opportunity, teaching them, and then them getting college opportunities and professional opportunities. And it was a lot. So my career has been extraordinary. And I'll end with it.
That's great.
Okay.
Thank you for coming again, and we really appreciate you. That was definitely an insightful interview, and that's Full Court with Carlos Powell.
Thank you.